We were on a meeting earlier today, and I said, I have to jump off.
Okay, everyone, I'd like to call to order the January meeting of the Merced County Association of Governments. Stacy, could you please call the roll? I think, or is Emily?
Emily.
Emily, could you please call the roll? Is she unmuted?
Yes.
Yes, I will. I'm sorry, you can hear my printer in the background, and I apologize for that. Director Aguilar,
50,000?
Director Kale,
Here.
Director Espinoza.
President, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Director Faria,
Here.
Director Hogue,
Here.
Director McDaniel,
Present.
Director Nagy,
Here.
Director Pedroso,
Here.
Director Serrato, Director Silvera, and Chair Pereira.
Here.
Thank you.
Do we have a quorum?
Quorum.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move to item B, Pledge of Allegiance. April, would you please lead us?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Oh.
Okay, we'll move to item C, invocation. Is there anyone who would like to do the invocation? If not, I will. If you are so inclined, please bow your head with me. Heavenly Father, we ask you for your guidance today, that we would make decisions that are good for the county of Merced and good for the people that live here. I also want to say a prayer for all those that are stricken with COVID right now. It seems like there's just a tremendous amount of people, and I pray that you would comfort them and that you would heal them, Lord. And I pray that this pandemic gets past us here pretty quick, because it's been very hard on your people, and we're tired. And I fear that the mental health of your people is even worse than their physical health. So I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we'll move to item 2, approval of the agenda. There are no changes, are there?
No changes.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Rodrigo. Could I move up item number 8? I might have to leave early.
Okay. So we could do item 8 right after Caltrans report. Would that, or actually after item 5? Would that be fine?
Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks for asking. Okay, I had a motion by Director Kale. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by McDaniel. I see no comments. I'll call for the vote.
Director Kale,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes?
Director Faria,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Nagy,
Aye.
Director Pedroso,
Yes.
Chair Pereira.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. All right, at this time, we'll move to item 3, which is public comment. Public comment is available during our meeting. You would be able to comment on any item that comes before this, our jurisdiction, whether or not is on the agenda. You have 3 minutes. Is there anybody who wishes to make public comment?
And
Are there-
Mr. Chair, if I could just report that we did not receive any comments in advance of the meeting.
Okay. Are there any raised hands?
There are no raised hands.
All right, thank you. Then we'll close public comment. We'll move to item 4, Caltrans report. Who do we have with us today?
Mr. Chair, this is Marlon Regis Ford with Caltrans District 10. I don't believe I can start my video at the moment, but hopefully y'all can hear me.
Yes, we hear you well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the board. Thank you, Madam Director. I'll give a brief update for Caltrans. I apologize, I cannot be there in person today. Again, we're undergoing the state guidance for Omicron variant, so I'm attending virtually today. However, I did want to bring up several things for the board. One being, and I'll start with the statewide items. First of all, Governor Newsom recently unveiled his 22-23 fiscal year budget. And that includes nearly $15 billion of investment in the state transportation system and infrastructure, creating thousands of jobs to advance climate and public health goals and position the state to pursue federal investment through the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So that's something that we're keeping track of at the Caltrans level, and where that money will go and how we can best compete for that money and support Merced County projects. We also are tracking the nearly $850 million of funding that's been proposed from the state and FHWA for bridge repair funding as part of the federal bipartisan infrastructure law. We're hoping some of that money will come to our region, and we're going to keep track of how we can invest the money for our bridges in this area. I do also want to mention some personnel changes at the state level for the board. One being our CALSTA secretary, that's our parent agency, California State Transportation Agency. Our previous secretary, David Kim, he had just recently stepped down in December. He's actually going back to the East Coast. He has some family issues, but there is a acting appointment in place, and her name is Alyssa Canove. You probably will hear her more in the near future, but I just wanted to bring that to the board. She will be the acting CALSTA secretary until further notice. Also at the Caltrans level, our Caltrans chief deputy has been announced in December, and his name is Michael Kiever. He was formerly our chief of project delivery, and so he's in a big role. He's in the number 2 role, chief deputy, and he's stepping in for the recently retired James Davis. And also, we've recently announced our deputy director for sustainability statewide, and his name is Tony Dang. He's taking over for Ellen Greenberg, who also recently retired. So those are the announcements in terms of personnel I wanted to bring to the board, but we also have some news regarding some director's policies. Mostly the one that I wanted to bring to the board's attention was Director's Policy 37, which is regarding complete streets. It was in the news a couple of weeks back, but the gist of it is Caltrans is now required to include complete street features, bike and ped features, for all new transportation projects moving forward. And this is intended to help meet the state's climate and health equity goals. We do have a copy of this director's policy on our website, and I'm happy to share that with the board if you'd like. A couple other minor things I wanted to mention. We do have our state-sponsored non-shop project initiation document, which we are advertising to all of our partners in terms of any nomination for projects that our partners would like us to initiate that do align with our state and federal climate and strategic plan goals. So this is an opportunity to submit concepts to Caltrans. If you have any concepts for potential projects, we're happy to hear that. And if you'd like further information, please do contact me. I'm happy to share information with the board as well. Moving forward, we do have our, and this is for California, we do have our Service Assistant Maintenance, or SAM program, now up and running. And this is part of the $1 billion Clean California effort to help perform litter removal and beautification projects around the state. So our first SAM crew is in Stockton, but we're looking to get some SAM workers all across our district. So that's something that we'll be focusing on, and we really want to make sure we're paying attention to needs in Merced County. I'll move on quickly to our local grant program. We do have a February, I think, 24th deadline for the Clean California Local Grant Program. So I just want to bring that to the board one more time. And if you have any needs that you'd like to see addressed as part of the local grant program, this is a great opportunity. Please do consider it. We'll be happy to hear if there's any questions, concerns, any information that you'd like regarding the Clean California Local Grant Program. We have our coordinator, Sam Sherman, on standby if the board or any of our partners have any questions or concerns. Lastly, I do want to mention we have some projects in the area, and one of those being a traffic signal installation we just did in City of Los Banos on 152 and 11th Street. This will hopefully reduce the number and severity of broadside and auto pedestrian collisions in Los Banos. So we're really happy about that project. And we also hear recently about some concerns regarding our lane adjustment on 99 in City of Merced, and the city did reach out to us, and we're working with City of Merced to make sure that we provide information to the general public about the upcoming ramp closures on northbound 99, as well as anything that we can do to support the city's economic needs as well for this particular project moving forward. So those are all the updates I wanted to share with the board. If there's any questions, comments, thoughts, I'm happy to hear it, and thanks again for the time.
Thank you, Marlon, for that. I do have a request. Could at our next meeting, or in between, if you want to email it to our executive director, but could I get the traffic counts for all the highways in Merced County?
I believe we can provide something of that sort to you, absolutely, if you'd like.
Okay. And then just one other comment, I guess. As I listened to your report and the focus that where Caltrans is moving, so from a planning standpoint, we're required to consider, more than consider, neighborhood businesses in development, and yet the state's policies have made it so expensive for what we would call mom and pop businesses, right, that locate in neighborhoods to do business. And so what happens is the little local stores go out of business, and then regional chains come in and take over. And they don't put themselves in neighborhoods, right? They put themselves on highways or high-use intersections, which kind of is the opposite of the goal of reduced travel. And so, anyways, if you could just pass that on up your chain, I sure would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those comments are well noted, and we understand your concern. I'll definitely reach out to our headquarters partners to discuss this particular issue. We really appreciate it.
Does anybody else have, yes, Director Pedroza?
Thank you, Marlon. Just a quick, I want to thank you again. I got an email from the city manager from Merced today, kind of talking about your guys' willingness to work with the city to recognize some of the impacts that the construction on 99 is going to have. But I do want to ask, because the last we heard was that in November was that you guys are still working on the signs in regards to the Lee Grand exit and Lee Grand Road, and I wanted to see if there was any update on that or anything else. With what I had brought up at our last meeting in regards to 99 at Applegate and Atwater.
Thank you, Director. I couldn't follow if you were referring to the LeGrand exit issue or.
Yes, that's what I was referring to.
Okay. Yes. We actually did reach out to our District 6 partners. Because we are aware that the signage issue is primarily in our District 6 office. We did receive a response from our partners down there that they are planning to replace the sign at some point. However, I don't have any further details, but we can follow up and get some more specifics for you if you'd like.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
For the record, could we let it show that Director Serrato has joined the meeting? Yes, Pat.
And the timestamp, please.
Yes.
Hello, Marlon. This is Pat Nagy from Gustine. Just putting a bug in your ear again. We're still waiting on that encroachment permit. Whatever you can do, we're ready to go. Just waiting on to get that encroachment permit back from District 10. So if you could put a bug in their ear, we are now spending our own money on this project instead of grant money, because we don't get any more grant money until we start moving forward. So it's kind of hitting home in our coffers. So thank you.
Understood, Director. Thank you for bringing that up to our attention. I did reach out after your comments last board meeting. I reached out to our project team. I don't believe I heard anything substantial back, but I will follow up with them on this issue. That's a concern to us as well. We don't want you to spend your own money unnecessarily, so appreciate that follow-up.
Thank you, Marlon, and thanks for all you do for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, yeah.
Marlon, that's Tom Ferreira, Los Banos. Thanks for getting that 11th Street junction done. That seems to be working beautifully. We talked with staff. The other day, we had a pedestrian killed on Mercy Springs, north of town. There are some lighting issues, perhaps, so I know our staff will be talking with everybody up there, see if we can get some solutions to that situation. And we appreciate all you do.
Thanks, Director. We'll continue to look into that pet situation in Los Banos. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? All right, Marlon. Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here and listening to our concerns. Have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Okay. We'll move to item 5, which is the Citizens Advisory Committee report, and we have Rene Gutierrez in the house, or Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, Chair, Director, Executive Director. So here to present MCAG Citizen Advisory Committee report. This last year, we've had at least 4 new members, so please tap on us as a resource. We're a very active group in the community, so we're hoping you guys get a hold of us and we'll help you guys out with what you guys need. We did meet on Friday, January 7th. We did have quorum. Staff presented the MCAG and GPA action information discussion items to the CAC members. All action items were passed as presented by staff. Other points of interest, we are looking forward to have a meeting in Los Banos to be able to get those community members involved with our CAC meeting. So we'll be exploring that in the spring and summer based on when the current environment opens up a bit. And also, we do have a vacancy for a small business representative. If you know anybody, just feel free and send them over to MCAG staff so we can get them involved. So that is our update, and thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, we will move to item 8, which is our action items. The first one is item A, approve the fiscal year 2022-2023 overall work program priorities. Stacy Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is our annual item for January that is asking the board to approve our priorities that will be used to build our work program for the fiscal year 2022-2023. It also serves as a framework that we rely on throughout the year when asked to participate in or lend support to particular projects or efforts with letters or staff support. This really is our guidebook to what we're going to be doing and developing our staff time and our products around in the coming year. I will point out that this should look familiar to board members who have been on the board for longer than a year. Items 1 through 9 have been, for the most part, our priorities for the last 2 or 3 years. Last year, we did add 9E, which is supporting specifically the electric vehicle readiness planning. And then this year, we're proposing item 10, which is planning for and investing in non-motorized mobility throughout the region. That's a fancy way of just, bike ped. Rail is in here, the highway main corridors are in here, all of the blueprint smart growth principles are in here. It's a very broad framework, but we wanted to specifically call out that non-motorized planning as a priority. So with the board's approval today, this will serve as the core for the development of our work program for the coming fiscal year. And we are requesting board action.
Okay. Any questions of Stacy? Any raised hands online from our board members?
There are none?
All right. Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve. Second.
Been moved by Director Faria, seconded by Director Nagy.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
And Chair Pereira.
I vote aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We will move to item B, which is accept the MCAG audited financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2021. Hello, Nav.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, directors. The item before you is approval of the FY 2021 audited financials. I will keep this brief, as nothing has significantly changed since we reported the year-end financial report earlier this fiscal year. For fiscal year 2021, MCAG's assets grew by $8.3 million. That's because we had some receivables outstanding and the cash that came in from Measure V regional funds. Also, our liabilities increased by $3.1 million. The same token as unearned revenue, so those revenues that we receive but we haven't applied to any projects. And also, we have some payables as a 630 for regional projects to be paid. Like as I said, MCAG's revenues increased by $1.7 million. Also, at the same token, expenditures increased by $1.2 million. In conclusion, there is no material weakness or significant deficiencies on the MCG audit financials. That's it.
Okay. Any questions of Nav? I see none online. All right. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Director Pedroso, seconded by Director Nagy. Emily, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Aye.
Chair Pereira.
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item C, which is to accept the Measure V audited financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2021. Again, it is Nav Bakri.
So before you is approval of the 2021 financial audits for Measure V. This is actually some good stuff. In front of you is a schedule of revenues expenditures as of 6/30. As you can see, Measure V generated $23.8 million in revenues. But in the same tokens, the expenditures was $13.2 million. This schedule shows how much Measure V was allocated to each jurisdiction, regional funding, and administration. Same token, it also demonstrates the expenditures by each region and how much funds were expended by East and West side. For those who are online, it's page 148 of your packet. Any questions so far? None? Okay. So page 2, this outlines the regional projects, what was budgeted and how much has been spent to date. The first page is the east side projects, and it shows that what projects are open so far. We are in the process of actually having a closeout process for these regional projects, so we are actually preparing procedures to close out these projects. The next page is all the projects on the west side, which what are the budgets, how much has expended to date. So far, any questions on this for the east and west side projects? And then the last page is the total number of Measure V's rides. So this demonstrates how many rides were provided in fiscal year 2021. As you can see, it's only 54,000 rides, but that makes up only 4 months. And that's, if you times that by 4, that's almost 200,000 rides, would exceed the 2020 numbers. That concludes this presentation report. Does anybody have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Second.
Been moved by Director Nagy and seconded by Director McDaniel.
Roll call
Please
vote.
call the roll.
Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Yes.
And Chair Pereira.
I vote aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item D, which is authorization of the formation of the 6th Cycle Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RENA as we call it, Steering Committee, and a 2022 RTP Sustainable Communities Strategy Advisory Committee. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are in the middle or kicking off 2 core planning processes at MCAG, the RENA and the RTP SES, both of which require significant stakeholder involvement and public outreach. So staff is requesting that the board authorize the formation of 2 committees, one being the 6th Cycle RENA Steering Committee and the other being the 2022 RTP SES Advisory Committee. And the purpose of both committees will be to serve as forums to solicit stakeholder input in the development of the 2 key planning documents. The Regional Housing Needs Assessment is a planning process by which the California Department of Housing and Community Development determines the total number of new homes that a region needs to plan for, and also how affordable those homes should be. There's categories by income. In order to meet the broader housing needs for people in the region at all income levels. So what MCAG is responsible for doing, and what will be the work of the RENA Steering Committee, is to assist and provide feedback in the development of a methodology that takes that county-wide regional number and distributes it to each of the jurisdictions, so that each jurisdiction takes that number of housing units, updates their housing element, and then therefore has completed the planning processes by which housing development could be facilitated in the future. So this committee, as I laid out in the staff report, needs to include all jurisdictional representation. So all 7 jurisdictions will have staff to participate. And then some of the key stakeholder groups would be representatives from various housing developers, affordable housing, local developers, national developers, bike pedestrian, advocacy organizations, social equity, environmental justice, and economic development. For the RTP SES, as you know, this is our long-range planning document that develops that vision and investment plan that really takes a comprehensive look at the future of transportation in Merced County. It considers items like future population growth, housing needs, economic, environmental, public health goals, and then maps out how our region will integrate transportation and land use with the goal of providing transportation options as we grow into a larger region, and doing that in a socially conscious and economically conscious way, environmentally conscious way. So we are required to do both of these processes. The RTPSES in particular is required for not just MCAG, but for the jurisdictions to be eligible for certain state and federal transportation funding programs. So it is also critical that we engage our broader community and a number of industries. It's really kind of a kitchen sink approach to get all of the perspectives and input from our broader community in Merced County and all these industries in the development of the committee. So for that particular committee, it also will require representation from the jurisdictions. It is not outlined in the action, but I am seeking a volunteer of this body to serve. Several of you have done it in the past. The meetings will really take place largely between now and April. Many of them will be virtual, but it's a really good way, if you've never been part of this process, to really be part of one of our biggest planning functions that we do for the region. So that's my synopsis for the RTPS. Yes, it will also include our Citizens Advisory, our Technical Review Board, all modes of transportation, ADA, seniors, agriculture, goods movement, the list goes on and on. Caltrans, broad-based businesses, economic development, housing, literally every sector of the community we try to garner input from. So, Mr. Chair, at this time I am requesting that the board authorize the formation of the ARENA Committee and the RTPSES Committee, and then potentially a volunteer to serve on the RTPSES Committee.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Stacy? Pretty straightforward.
I have a question.
Yes.
How come every time you said volunteer, you stared at me?
I felt the same.
Fate.
Well, you have a big project going on, so you'd think you'd want to get involved. Are you volunteering?
I didn't say that.
Oh,
You were the only
I
one.
asked, it was a question.
You were the only one that was maintaining eye contact. Everyone else was looking away.
Okay, well, let's take these. The first two items would be to approve the requested action of creating the ARENA Steering Committee and the RTPSCS Advisory Committee.
Move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Been moved by Director Hoag and seconded by Director McDaniel. Please call the roll.
Director Kale.
Yes.
Director Espinoza.
Yes.
Director Faria.
Yes.
Director Hoag.
Yes.
Director McDaniel.
Aye.
Director Nagy.
Aye.
Director Pedroso.
Yes.
Director Serrato.
Yes.
Chair Pereira.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And Chair, just for the record, we won't hold it against the volunteer at all of whatever comes back to this body.
Quit looking at me, Darren.
I wish you could see under my mask. I'm like, you know.
How's it going?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if anyone else wants to volunteer, I would do so, but I don't want to, I know Mr. Nagy looked really excited, and so did Mr. Pedroso.
Yeah.
No, I'll volunteering, but I don't want to step in if someone else wants to.
acquiesce.
I'd volunteer.
Where are the meetings?
The meetings right now are going to be virtual, and I can't say exactly when on the time, but likely we're going to try for a late afternoon just to try to accommodate our non-elected official participants.
Okay. Well, we have two volunteers.
We can take two volunteers.
We can? Okay. So we'll then we'll approve, or we'll Director Faria
Yes, sir.
and Director Pedrosa.
Okay.
Very good. Leave it to the Portuguese guy. That's it. There's
Oh.
two ways to do everything, the Portuguese way and the wrong way.
And the Farm Bureau.
All right, we'll go to item E, approve 22 appointments for regional boards and commissions.
Okay.
Again, Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me get note of my two volunteers there. This also is an annual item. There's a lot of information here. I'm going to take the light route, and then you all can ask if there's more, if you want me to go in depth. But essentially, we do this every year to take a look at all of the committees, boards, councils, what have you, that this body appoints representatives to, and it's for two things. One, to confirm that if you are an incumbent serving on one of these boards and commissions, that you are interested in continuing, and also number two, to address any vacancies that exist. We currently do not have any vacancies, and the groups that we're looking at today are CalCog, the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council, CalVans, and that's it. I also included the REAP and the partnership in the staff report just for information so that we see the complete list, but neither of those are eligible at this time to be reconsidering. So the way that I had structured the action item, if you look on page 173 of your packet, the action has it teed up that if everyone who's sitting on these positions, which I can review if you would like, are interested in continuing, option A has it all lined out for those appointments. If there are changes that need to be made, then we can just plug them in as we go. So typically we have asked the incumbents if there are anyone serving on any of these committees at this point that would like to no longer serve in that capacity, and then we would address those vacancies and then make a motion.
Okay, I'm a firm believer if somebody's in their position and they're doing a good job that we don't replace them. So are there any incumbents that no longer wish to serve? Yes.
On CalVans, actually, we had a meeting this morning. We have very little service in our region. Almost all, they have a lot of CalVan service in other regions, but I think they have one carpool coming out of our region. So.
Well, I thought the goal when you got on was to try to increase.
We haven't had much success.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
We have van pooling, which the van pooling program in general is successful, but there is now Enterprise, the DIBS program on top of CalVan. So this is specific to just the CalVans provider. So I just want to clarify, van pooling in general is actually on the rise, but you're correct. CalVans in particular is not.
Yeah, there's only one in our region, and that discussion did occur in the meeting this morning.
Okay. Director Nagy, could I ask you a question? Did you want to be the primary?
Sure, I'm good.
Okay. Have you been attending the meetings?
No.
Oh, yeah, because he has, but
Well,
okay.
they conflict with LAFCO.
Oh, well, because I'll do a third suggestion or second suggestion is that maybe we don't put people in those positions and let it sit idle if it's not valuable to your time. But if you'd like to do it for a while and see, sure, okay.
We don't have a LAFCO meeting every month, but
Oh, I see, periodically.
in the future because our executive officer is retiring.
Right, yeah. Okay, so then the change would be that Pat Nagy would become the board member. Is anybody interested in being the alternate? Tom, would you do that just in case, since you kind of have a sense for it? Okay.
Sure. I'd be glad to do that.
All right. What is the pleasure of the board? Item A
I'll move to approve.
or option A? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so Director McDaniel motioned item A with the change of Tom Faria and Pat Nagy switching on the CalVans.
Correct.
And then who was the second? Director Nagy. Well, there you go. Okay, please call the roll.
Director McDaniel.
Aye.
Director Pedroso.
Yes.
Director Espinoza.
Yes.
Director Faria.
Yes.
Director Nagy.
Yes.
Director Serrato.
Yes.
Director Hogue.
Yes.
Director Kale.
Yes.
Chair Pereira.
I vote aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'm sorry I had to mix it up there a little bit.
Oh, that's okay. Keeps us on our toes. All right. So Supervisor Espinoza, are you staying longer, or Director Espinoza?
Actually, I'm gonna stay log off. Okay, so thank you very much for the support. I'll be chair of the JPA in about a year and a half. So thank you all for your support. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good day.
We will move to item 6, which is our informational items. They're all listed here. Does anybody have any questions? All righty. Seeing none, we will move to item 7, which is our consent calendar. What is the, all consent calendar items listed below may be acted upon with one vote unless specifically removed or for separate consideration by a member of the board, a member of staff, or a member of the public. Does anybody wish to remove an item? Okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move considering all items.
Second.
Been moved by Director McDaniel, seconded by Director Pedroso. I see no further comments or questions. Please call the roll.
Okay, Director Faria.
Yes.
Director Pedroso.
Yes.
Director Serrato.
Yes.
Director Espinoza is gone.
He left the meeting.
Director Kale.
Yes.
Director Hoag.
Yes.
Director Nagy.
Yes.
Director McDaniel.
Aye. Emily.
Chair Pereira.
Changing it up.
I vote aye. Motion carries.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item 9, which is a discussion item. Item A is the Highway 99 Summit, and that is Stacy Guzman.
Me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just to bring to your attention the culmination of a few efforts I've shared with the board on occasion, and as Director McDaniel's been involved with the Finish the 99 campaign, and the idea is to make sure the state is maintaining its commitment to completing the Highway 99 corridor. There are several components of the corridor that have yet to be widened to the 6 lanes, and those are in Madera County, Tulare County, and Merced County. So while we are continuing on that effort, the draft ITIP, the Inter-Regional Transportation Improvement Program that was released by Caltrans late last year, included funding for 4 projects, one of which is our Livingston Widening Project that was originally included in 2018. But for the Madera project that was listed for funding in the ITIP, there was language, which was really unusual, that made their project funding contingent upon a summit that would be held in partnership with Caltrans and the local and regional agencies. And in quote, it was to establish a vision for the 99 corridor that addresses local needs in a manner aligned with state goals as outlined in CAPTI before the STIP adoption of March 15th, 2022. So it required that a summit take place to achieve those goals. So we have been working, the San Joaquin Valley, the 8 COGs, and the Caltrans District 6 and 10 to put a summit together before this date to ensure that it does not become a problem for Madera's project funding. The date has been set for March 3rd and March 4th at the Tulare Ag Center. Because of the ongoing pandemic, in-person participation is going to be limited. They're requesting each COG to only bring 4 in-person participants, and they are recommending it be the executive director, the 2 regional policy council members, and the alternate. Of course, which in our case, of course, would be myself, Director McDaniel, Director Kale, and Director Silvera. Those are the 3 representatives. In the event any one of those 3 were not able to attend, we could invite additional board members as interested, but there will be a virtual option as well to participate. So those details are still coming along, but this was just this was kind of the first real actionable, tangible product that has come out of the 99 effort, and wanted to make sure you were all aware. And I did want to make a correction in the fiscal impact of my staff report on page 177. It indicates there's no impact to the agency outside of mileage reimbursement. That will also include 1 night of hotel, because it will be a 2-day conference, a 2-day event. And it's an information item.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Stacy? I see no raised hands, so we'll move on to the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County. We do have an action item, which is authorize the executive director to exercise the remaining 2 option years of the existing CAD-AVIL contract with Synchromatics in an amount not to exceed $58,556 annually. Well, hi, Christine. Welcome. No,
Thank
I
you, Mr.
see
Chair.
Ab Bagri is going to present today. Thank you.
Yeah, she's just to answer questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, staff is bringing an item to this board for action item to give executive director authority to enter a 2-year agreement, additional year agreement for $58,000 for a total of $117,122 for 2 years. Just a quick little background. CAD stands for Computer Aided Dispatch, and AVO stands for Automatic Vehicle Locations. The reason why this software is so important, it gives real-time passenger information system to us. Syncromatic provides riders with real-time bus arrival information from each stop in the system, which is integrated with our website and the buses app. Syncromatic also provides operational data such as details on the route performance, stop usage, and missed or delayed service. The equipment also makes the bus compliant with ADA and Title VI with the automatic vehicle annunciation feature. So if you ever hear the bus stop, it announces it, says stop M4 or whatever it is. It's important because if we don't do that, we get fined by Title VI. I think it's like $10,000 for each occurrence. So this is important. So that's why it's expensive. So other than that, this concludes this report. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Been moved by Director Nagy, seconded by Director Kale. Please call the roll.
Sorry about that. Director Serrato?
Yes.
Director Kale?
Yes.
Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Faria?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
You stepped out for a moment.
Chair Pereira?
I vote aye. Motion carries unanimously. Is that true?
Well,
You had 7 ayes, right?
7 ayes. I'll note that it's 7 ayes and that Director McDaniel left the room for a moment.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Hey, still unanimous, whether it's 7 or 10.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on
Unanimous on the
to
floor.
Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority, item 12, which is an action item. Accept the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority audited financials. Nav Bagri. Hello, Nav.
So I'm pretty sure you guys are tired of seeing me, but last one, I promise. This item before you is the 2021 audited financials. Like I said, I'll keep this brief. For 2021, RWA's assets increased by $5.8 million. The increase is due to the revenues exceeding the expenditures. For 2021, the liabilities increased by $90,000. The RWA's current liabilities increased by $1.2 million, but the long-term liabilities decreased by $1.1 million, which net change is the increase of $90,000. As I mentioned, the RWA total operating revenues is $19.7 million, and the total operating expenditures is $2.3 million. The non-operating revenue expenditure net change is negative $545,000. The total change in net position is at $5.8 million, which demonstrates our increase in assets. In conclusion, there's no material weakness or significant deficiencies in our audits. We had a clean audit on all 3 audits this year, so far. Knock on wood.
Okay.
That's the end of my report.
All right, any questions of Nav? Okay, seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Director Kale, seconded by Director Faria. Please call the roll. Director Nagy?
Aye.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Who was the motion in the second?
So the motion was Kale, and the second was Director Faria, and we already have an aye from Director Nagy.
Nagy's aye. Okay. Director Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Serrato?
Oh, yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Espinoza? I'm sorry, he stepped out. Director Faria?
Yes.
Director Kale?
Yes.
And Chair Pereira?
I vote aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item 13, which is a discussion item. This is the Household Hazardous Waste and Community Cleanup Event Calendar for 2022. Stacy Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an information item. In December, our RWA staff and all of the jurisdictional staff and haulers and a number of vendors met to coordinate the 2022 calendar regarding holiday closures and community cleanup dates. Many of the annual events that we've had in the past will continue as in previous years. However, we did learn from the Mattress Council that they will not be providing services to all events as they have in the past. So the staff from each jurisdiction will be contacted to discuss which events those services will be provided at moving forward. So that's something that we'll make sure that you all are aware of as these events are planned. The calendar does include dates for the quarterly household hazardous waste events at the Highway 59 landfill, as well as those that we hold in conjunction with the Los Banos cleanup dates. We did include 2 more HHW events in Los Banos to coincide with the city's 2 additional cleanup dates. This calendar, as you see, has been shared with all of our agency members, staff, and is posted on the RWA website. It is for your information.
All right, thank you. We will move to item 14, which is Executive Director's Report.
This is my last item, so sorry you had to hear me all afternoon. But I do want to start by thanking county staff for stepping in and being an extension of our team and administering our Zoom, especially on short notice, and to Emily for serving as our board clerk. Just with those 2 indicators, as well as the fact that Nav is the only one here accompanying me, it's a reflection of the ongoing pandemic, and I've shared it is. We have a number of our staff whose families are being impacted. So I just continue to thank you for your patience. We're trying, with our staffing shortages and the impacts of the pandemic, are trying to keep all of the balls in the air, the plate spinning, whatever metaphor we want to use. Sometimes it feels like it's all of them all at once, but we are keeping on. So thank you for being patient with us as we all adjust to what seems to be ever changing. Thank you also for our 2 volunteers who will be serving on the RTPSES committee. We will have an item in February as a part of our outreach to the board and our community education component that will just kind of be a RTPSES 101, just a reminder, what is it? Why is that important? Why do we have to do it? All of that. It will be probably some replication for our 2 directors that will serve on the committee, but if you're anything like me, the more you hear it, the more it sinks in. So I'll try to keep that presentation brief, but we'll make sure those materials are available to you. Also in February, I'll be bringing the schedule for the JPA renewal. Thank you all for the work you put into kicking that off at the board retreat in November. We have a process and schedule that will come to the board that will lay out basically the steps between now and June, and we'll get that process wrapped up here into the 2022 year. Also next month, we will be bringing our construction contract for authorization for our next door building for our new transit office. Long time coming, but we are excited. Just today, they finished the asbestos abatement, so we are rocking and rolling there. So construction hopefully will begin following our February board meeting. We've reported in the past, and this board has authorized the expenditure of new bus shelters throughout the region, and we've worked with our jurisdictions to identify where those would go. The first phase of those shelters have been received after some logistical delays and everything else that we're dealing with. And we, I think, are on the street right now for procuring a contract for the installation of those, so that'll be a priority come spring. Just a heads up, in the event you want to board a bus at our bus or any bus or an airplane or any kind of public transportation, the TSA has extended the mask mandate through March 18th. That continues to be pushed back just about right when we get close to it. It goes out a little further. Also want to mention that the Clean California program that Caltrans has been talking about, we have been exploring a potential partnership with the transit agency and the city of Merced and the city of Atwater. It's, again, we're still exploring it, but looking at that program as a way to beautify or make improvements to our transpo areas for the bus. We aren't sure if that will be an eligible, fruitful process, but we're trying to get creative to see if that's a way we can tap into those revenues. And then lastly, our next meeting is February 17th. It'll be here again. If you feel like we've been here a lot, it's because we had to make some adjustments as different councils have different rules about having in-person meetings. So as long as we continue to meet in person, when we do have to make a change to the schedule, this is typically the easiest, and we thank the county for continuing to host us. That is all, unless there are any questions for me.
Are there any questions for Stacy? Looks like you covered it.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
we'll move on to item 15, director's reports. I'll start at my left. Mr. Serrato,
Nothing for me, Chair, thank you.
Director Pedroso,
Nothing.
Director Hoag.
We've had a subject of the emergency call box funding and how many calls come to each small city. And we, as of, I think in 1 month, we had 700 outside our city, so from other places. So we were interested in where the funding for that is going to be distributed, or if it is distributed, if it gets distributed from smaller cities, that kind of stuff. So that came up in our meeting on Tuesday of this week, so I'm supposed to be reporting back to you to find out what's going on. So there, I've done my due diligence.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Director Hoag. So we're referring to the SAFE funds. We do have an accumulation of SAFE funds that have been growing because of the reduction in our call box program. There has been a discussion about whether those funds could be redirected to jurisdictions who are picking up calls that the dispatch service, dispatch support. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about whether that would be eligible, but the short answer is it's on our list of things to work our way through. I would probably need about another 2 months just to get through the start, but we'll put it on the agenda for March to just do a report, what we have eligible uses, and we can look at what those might be. Does that work with your timeline?
Well, as you know, we are going to be having a new city manager soon, but this is a little project that he'd been thinking about. So if, as long as I can give something to report to him, then I think we're on the right track. So thank you very much.
Could I ask a question, Director Hoag? So you're getting these calls. Are you also providing services? Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right. Director Nagy?
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Director Kale?
I just want to say, stay safe during this flu season.
Yeah, okay. Director Furia?
Thanks. Well, thanks everybody for coming to the city-county dinner. We trust no one went away hungry. It was a little gross. And we very much enjoyed having you, and hope you enjoyed our presentation, Mr. Nelson. As you know, my primary gig is music teacher, and so I have a lot of coordination with County Department of Education. We're actually getting a county honor choir together for the first time in 20-something years, and they'll be performing in April. And also in the arts, a couple of cool things. Friday night, Merced Symphony, this Friday night, they're doing their, it's from film music to the stage. And the concert will be 7:30 at the theater. And then finally, one of my graduates from my choir program has been appointed the artistic director of Playhouse Merced, G.B. Blackman. And GB is a super talent. He has been super talented since his childhood. I had the honor and pleasure of teaching him through his life, and he's just gone on and done fantastic things. So life is good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I would just like to thank our staff. I know it's been a challenging time. Stacy's reached out a couple of times since our last meeting, and anyways, we appreciate the extra effort that you're putting in to make the world tick in MCAG. So Nav and those of you online, we appreciate you as well. Thank you. And with that, we will call for adjournment of the meeting.